nothing's too realistic in our own world, then let's take the characters to a fantasy world. Call it cliche, call it a tricky way for writers to do world building, but you have to admit, the Isekai genre has some great shows in its arsenal. And out of those, I compiled 20 of the best shows you definitely need to watch. As usual, we plan on bringing more videos in the future, so don't forget to stay tuned by hitting the subscribe button, along with the bell notification icon. So, call in everyone's favorite truck because it's time to get Isekai. Number 20, Knights and Magic. I want to start the list with something different. It is common for most Isekai anime to feature traditional fantasy worlds with mages and magic, but Knights and Magic actually have a blend of technology to make it interesting. It happens when a software engineer and hardcore mecha otaku from our world is transported to a fantasy world where warriors use mecha robots known as silhouette knights to fight off powerful beasts. This software engineer is born as Eru Chevalier and soon realizes that the magic of the world is related to the programming of our world. This allows him to excel in certain areas of magic, as well as become a great mecha pilot. If you want an Isekai with some hardcore programming, then here's a show for you. Number 19, Isekai Cheat Magician. Here we have two high schoolers by the name of Taichi Nishimura and Kanade Azuma getting transported to a magical world named Altea. After fending off a monster attack, the two decide to enroll as adventurers. That's when they realize, despite being just teleported, they possess incredible magic powers. The two soon begin their adventures as the most powerful cheat magicians. But just because you cheated fate doesn't mean it's going to let you go easily. Taichi is now searched by a mysterious woman who wants to use his power for her advantage. If you want an Isekai anime with an overpowered protagonist duo, plus some great action, Isekai Cheat Magician will be the perfect anime for you. Number 18, How Not to Summon a Demon Lord. The Isekai genre wouldn't be complete without demon lords. But what happens when an awkward antisocial teenager gets turned into a powerful demon lord? It happens when Takuma Sakamoto, who is a so-called clumsy teenager, gets summoned as a demon lord to another world. The two women who summoned him tried to bind him as their slave, but instead, the two of them ended up becoming his slave. Even though things are to Takuma's advantage, his social awkwardness kicks in, and it is funny to see how he tries to adapt to each situation. The first season followed the schemes of the villainous Edelgard, and the second season will be coming next year, so you can binge watch the series now and be ready for the second season's release. 17. Wise Man's Grandchild. I know I'm going to speak a lot about overpowered Isekai characters in our video, but we're sure they will all falter if they go face to face with Shin Wolford. After Shin died in the present world, he was reincarnated as Shin Wolford in another fantasy world. Shin is the grandson of Merlin Wolford, who is one of the strongest magic users in the world, and obviously, his strength was passed on to his grandson. Shin's power lies in using his knowledge of his past life to make him stronger, and a funny thing that is emphasized in the anime is that Shin doesn't know his own boundaries of power, so he always ends up overdoing it. Now, only Wise Man's Grandchild has an overpowered protagonist, but it also has an interesting cast of characters, and is filled with both funny and action-packed moments. Number 16, Familiar of Zero. Not all Isekai is about action. What happens when a prideful noble girl gets a slave from another world? Is it love at first sight, or embarrassment and punishment afterward? Familiar of Zero starts when Louise summons a familiar from our world named Saito Hiraga. Saito was just an average high schooler who needed to spend a normal life, but that soon becomes a dream as he now needs to serve Louise, and even save her from embarrassing moments. Familiar of Zero has 4 seasons, and even though it may loosely hang on the plot factor, it does have some great romance plus harem. The romance may be cheesy at times, but you'll soon start to like this master-servant couple. Number 15, Rising of the Shield Hero. Call it the anime of the betrayed hero or the anime with a cute squirrel girl, but don't deny the fact that it gave us one of the best Isekai revenge stories up to date. Rising of the Shield Hero happens when Naofumi Iwatani is transported to a world where 4 heroes should defend the nation against monsters. Naofumi becomes the infamous Shield Hero, but much to his distaste, he is betrayed on his very first day and exiled from the kingdom. The rest of the anime follows his story, as he finds new allies and tries to prove his innocence. Every Isekai has its specialty, and in the case of Shield Hero, it is the character of Naofumi. You'll soon begin to root for him in his journey for revenge and be surprised about how the boy went from cheerful to callous and cold-hearted. Number 14, In Another World with My Smartphone. No, the main character isn't reincarnated as a smartphone. Anime hasn't reached that level yet. But God, who accidentally kills 15-year-old Touya Mochizuki, decides to send him to another world with his smartphone. This smartphone doesn't allow Touya to contact people from his world, but it has some cool features that make your iPhone look like garbage. Apart from giving him supernatural smartphone, God also increases Touya's magical and physical strength. Now Touya begins his journey on this fantasy world and befriends many allies, which are mostly female of course. It turns out, God was kind enough to grant him his own harem as well. Number 13, Cautious Hero. Isekai has a way of giving story titles that actually resemble a certain trope in the story. And in Cautious Hero, the hero is overly cautious. So, if a slime decides to attack him, he'd check the nearest escape route, find backup, check for any other enemies, and only then will he proceed to massacre the slime with every magical power he's got. Here we got Seiya, who is summoned by the goddess Restarte to save the world from a demon lord. But Seiya is the so-called cautious hero and decides to flee rather than attack his enemies. Cautious Hero is more of a comedy isekai rather than an action anime. The main duo's actions can surely give you some laughs, and Restarte is almost a second Aqua when it comes to solving problems. Number 12, Death March to the Parallel World Rhapsody. Overpowered protagonist on a death march in a parallel world? Then this anime would neatly hit the spot. Similar to Knights and Magic, this time, a programmer is reincarnated in one of his own game worlds. When surrounded by lizardmen, he unleashes a powerful attack that kills a god in the nearby vicinity as well. This takes him to the max level of the world, and then he sets off on an adventure to uncover the secrets of the world. Similar to In Another World with My Smartphone, this anime is also fantasy, isekai, and harem, so expect the same old tropes coming back again, but this time with some twists that will keep you hooked. Number 11, Grimgar, Ashes and Illusions. Enough with the lighthearted comedy, let's move into some action-packed dark fantasy. Grimgar is one of those unique isekai series that doesn't rely on the regular isekai plot elements. Parts of the story are narrated through flashbacks, and we learn more about the group led by a thief named Haruhiro. He is among a group of humans who got reincarnated into the world with no memory and knowledge of it, and now is divided into groups. Haruhiro's group was led by a man named Minato, but he dies sacrificing himself to save the group. We follow the adventures of Haruhiro as he moves from a regular thief to a team leader taking responsibility for his actions. He also meets a healer named Miri, and together, they avenge their fallen comrade and earn their place in the world. Number 10, Arifureta, from Commonplace to World's Strongest. Arifureta is like the big brother of Shield Hero, once again featuring a cold-hearted and cynical protagonist having his so-called nature due to betrayal. This time not only a single person, but a whole class is transported to a fantasy world. Here, we have Hajime Nagumo, who is frequently bullied by his classmates. While others gain powerful magical abilities during the transportation, he only gains basic alchemy. He is soon betrayed by his classmates, and he is dropped to the bottom of a dungeon. Here, he befriends a vampire named Yue and slowly learns how to grow strong. As it's obvious from the name itself, the anime shows how the weak boy gradually grows strong and surprises his opponents. So if you need a good power fantasy isekai with a character journey, then this is definitely going to suit your tastes. Number 9, the Saga of Tanya the Evil. If you are tired of people being reincarnated as powerful main characters, then it's better to watch Saga of Tanya the Evil. And Tanya is not only evil, but she is ruthless and in thirst for the blood of her enemies. No, I'm not exaggerating. After an average Japanese salaryman is killed, a mysterious entity known as Being X transports him to a war-torn world and turns him into a girl named Tanya. Tanya has an increased hatred towards Being X, whom she refers to as God. And to survive in the world and take her revenge, she decides to enroll in the military academy and rise to the top. Tanya is the perfect isekai anti-hero. She doesn't hesitate to kill his enemies, or turn the battlefield into a bloodbath. Mix it in with a crazy laugh and you've got a light yagami with guns in an isekai world. Number 8, Gate. It's common for people to get transported into a fantasy world, but what happens when a fantasy world comes to you? In modern-day Tokyo, a portal from another world suddenly appears and monsters and soldiers start attacking Japan. A special force known as the Japanese Self-Defense Force is sent to control the situation. One of the members of the JSDF is Yoji Itami, who navigates this fantasy world with his little knowledge about fantasy. Yoji helps the people in the world, eventually befriending people in it and building relationships with them. Unlike most isekai protagonists these days, Yoji isn't overpowered or doesn't excel in magic. So, if you want the story of an average Japanese guy getting transported to a magical world, then take a break from all those power fantasies and give this one a watch. Number 7, Sword Art Online. How can I forget the father of all isekai? If it wasn't for this black-cloaked swordsman, then isekai would never even be considered as a genre of anime. If you are an isekai fan, then it would be a surprise if you haven't heard of Sword Art Online. But if you don't know, it's about Kirito being trapped inside a video game he played and finds a way to escape it. Similar to many others, Kirito is the overpowered guy who only takes a few seconds to bring down even the higher level enemies. There are a lot of swords, but a little less art in here. But if you ignore the first 2 seasons and move into alicization, then you are sure in for a surprise. Plus, you've got the world's first isekai harem. So, who can complain? Number 6, No Game, No Life. One of the reasons I pushed No Game No Life up in the list is because of the protagonists. Sora and Shiro are one of the most interesting siblings to land on an isekai world. These two are hikikomori step-siblings who are known in online gaming for their skill and talent. One day, a god challenges them for a game and tells them about a fantasy world ruled by games. Sora and Shiro at first think it's a joke, but all laughs are gone when they are transported to the world themselves. Here, everything is solved by playing games, from a minor street brawl to conquering countries. No Game No Life is one of those unique isekai shows you'll find with interesting characters, world building, and of course, death-defying games. Number 5, Overlord. Next up, we have the Skull Lord of Isekai, the Overlord. It happens when a massively popular MMORPG game is suddenly shut down, leaving only a single guild leader named Ain's Olgown in it. Ain still has his servants working under him, but with all the players now gone, other races start to evolve in the new world. Ain sets out to find the whereabouts of other players in the world. One thing that makes Overlord unique is the morality of the characters. Ains never hesitates to kill anyone or harm anyone who opposes him, which are taboo in the real world. He's overpowered, and there's no force in the world that could stop him. To quote the fans, Overlord is about the psychology of a creature beyond ethical concerns with near limitless power. Number 4, Log Horizon. Want another Isekai with a genius protagonist? Log Horizon is based on the light novel and manga of the same name, and follows the adventures of the rather socially awkward Shiru as he gets trapped in a game world with 30,000 other players. The first 2 seasons showed Shiru forming the Round Table Alliance and bringing peace to the city of Akiba, and then followed their journey on trying to find a way back home. The 3rd season is coming next year, so if you haven't watched the anime so far, then now's a good time to catch up. Even if you aren't interested in the world, you'll surely be surprised by Shiru's schemes. Number 3, That Time I Got Reincarnated as a Slime. Don't let the word slime stop you from watching this anime. In fact, this slime is one of the most powerful creatures in this whole world. If it wasn't obvious from the title, it's about Satoru Mikami, an average salaryman who's reincarnated in another world as a slime named Rimuru Tempest. He is bestowed divine protection by the dragon, and he soon heads off on his own adventure. At first glance, this anime may look similar to many other isekai, but in truth, it features more exploration and world building more than anything else. You've got different races, cultural issues, and along all of that, you get to see Rimuru Tempest in action. Number 2, Re:Zero. At number 2, we have everyone's isekai dose of suffering, Re:Zero. Subaru is transported to a fantasy world while coming out of a grocery shop, but his time in the fantasy world isn't surrounded by adventures and cute girls. Subaru soon learns that he doesn't die when he's killed, and no, that's not a joke. He literally has the ability to get reincarnated at a specific time as soon as he dies. The anime follows his story as he struggles to find who brought him to this fantasy world, and his purpose in it. And just a warning, if you are not feeling depressed, this anime can surely grant you that. Apart from its great story and complex mystery, this show can surely hook you up from the first episode itself. Number 1, Konosuba. Go for the isekai, stay for the jokes. That's Konosuba in one sentence. You may have seen your fair share of weird adventures, but there's nothing weirder than the party of Kazuma. First you have Aqua, a useless goddess who can only make matters worse. Then you have Megumin, a character with great potential, but who only practices one type of magic. Finally, there is the noble Knight Darkness, and noble is the last word you can apply for this pervert. Konosuba may have a loosely hanging plot, but not even Sword Art Online could beat its entertainment factor. Each episode is refreshing to watch, and the group's action will make your ribs hurt from laughing. This is without any doubt the best isekai of all time. So, I hope there were at least a few shows that you didn't watch from these 20, and I think I convinced you enough to watch them. As usual, if you enjoy the video, don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon, so you can be updated as soon as we release a new video. Stay safe, anime fans, and I'll see you in the next video.